If you would like to complain about, I don't know, the cost of electricity these days, then today it's your day because you're going to write a letter of complaint. Now, we have already done quite a bit about this unit, which you can see behind me. We've done the introduction. We've told you, as you can see here in the middle, I'll highlight it for you, that first Jude contacted the YCN and that they told him perhaps it's best to write a letter of complaint. So Jude obviously does that, but how do you do that? Well, we told you last time, and the writing focus was about that. I'll show you. There are a couple of things to do. In an introduction, you have to say why you're writing and summarize your complaint. I told you last time. People who are going to read the complaint are probably not the same people you're going to complain about, so they need a bit of introduction. They need to know the story, the background. Then you have the main paragraphs, where obviously we're going to use narrative tenses, because narrative tenses are past tenses and it's a past event, so what else to use? And then you're also going to give your reaction to the incident, and that included sentences like "we're particularly upset because," to make matters worse, "the truth is," "the fact is," "without doubt," etc. So these kind of reactions which are helpful to make a better written letter. Okay, so now you have given your complaint, but what else do you want to do? Well, that's for the conclusion. As you can see there, you have to say what you would like to happen next. Things like, we urge you to reconsider your policies. And I told you urge is sort of like a modal, but not really a modal. An alternative, and that's coming up later in today's lesson. And another possibility will be, we ask, we demand that you, for instance, investigate a matter. Okay, so that is what your advice for the matter is. Then you make a final statement, such as in this case, it's simply unfair to discriminate against young people in this way. It sort of summarizes the entire situation. And obviously, mention that you expect a reply. We look forward to your response, because this, in a way, helps you expect a letter back or a message back. And if not, you could always take this to higher authority, saying, I tried to tell them that this and this was going wrong, but they didn't even reply, which is always in your favor and less so in theirs. So letter of complaint there, a very important facts to remember. And we then had this letter. And if you look, there's a couple of words which are in a different color, such as took place. I wonder why that is the case. Well, let's find out why that is the case in the next exercise. So I'm writing to complain about an incident that happened last night at the Sky Bowling Alley. Now, we are looking for a word which means the same as happened. So we have a couple of things, and what we noticed is all of them are verbs, so that's not going to be helpful. What can I point out as well? If you look at the list, reason with is the only one which isn't in the past tense. So that can be useful, right? So what happened? If you know, good. If you don't know, have a look at the email and try and see which of those could be similar. So for instance, that took place, and if you just do that, if instead of took place, you say happened, you think, hey, that fits, perhaps that is a synonym, in case you don't know. We told her we had paid and tried to. And we see here that persuade is not a past tense, it's an infinitive. And like I told you, reason with is the only one which is not a past tense. So that's always a good way to do that. We now give you a minute to have a look at the other ones, and then after that, you can see the results. Ready? Here are the answers. A synonym for said we had done something bad is accuse, came towards us, so in our direction, and then, well, I would say it's approach. Ashamed or embarrassed, that isn't a verb, but it's an adjective. So we only have a couple of them left, and all of them could fit this. So if you don't know, look at the text, like I said, and see which words fit there. And however she started shouting at us and promised to do something bad, that is the only one we have left, threatened. Okay, next exercise, number 6. Put the sentences from A to E in the correct order to form an extract from an email. We told her that we had paid and tried to reason with her. She accused us of trying to leave without paying for our drinks. My friends and I had finished our game and were about to leave when a waitress approached us. All the other customers heard her shouting and we felt really humiliated. And however, she started shouting at us and threatened to call the police. All right. It's time now for you to have a go and see if you can put that in the correct order. So how are we going to look at this? Well, a couple of things we can say. This is not a good start. However is one of those words. It means that something comes before it. You can never start with however, because it implies this is a reaction to something I mentioned earlier. Then we have D, and D starts with all the other customers. That is possible. But then we have heard her shouting and we felt humiliated. Now, these are words which you can't use at the start because, well, we don't know who her is, we don't know who we are. So we're going to look at a sentence which gives us that. Again, also A and B do the similar things, so it has to be C. And this is a good way to start. My friends and I, that's who we are, had finished our game and we're about to leave when a waitress approached us. So that is who she is. Then we also get a bit of extra information. What did we do? In this case, we finished our game. So the waitress approached us. That means she's coming near us. We know that from the previous exercise. So why is she doing that? Well, we need a reason, and we find that in B, obviously, she accused us of trying to leave without paying for our drinks. Accused us implies that you didn't do that. Well, in this case, that you did pay. So we're going to look for an answer that says this, and we find an A. We told her that we had paid and tried to reason with her, sorry, and then, well, there could be a reaction to this. Like I said, E implies a reaction. However, she started shouting at us and threatened to call the police. And then we look for one more sentence, and as all the other customers heard her shouting and we felt really humiliated. There we go. That is a way to do this. Also on writing tasks and reading tests. Look for these words, which words give away information that is not there. You can never start a sentence like I said, D. You can never start a text with D. We need to know who her is. We need to know who we is. So we need that information. So look for keywords like you find in E. Look for information which is specific, like I mentioned in D, and we have her and we missing. So we need to find a sentence which gives us her and we, and C does that. So that's always a trick to do that kind of thing. I'm gonna make sure this is away from the next slide. And then we have a possible interaction, but in this case, it's going to be quite difficult. When was the last time you were angry, you shouted at someone? We have two options here, so or such. And as you can see, such can be followed by such a or such an. So, well, go with me on this one. When were you so angry? because, well, you can't use or un. When did you have good time? That needs to be preceded by something, right? A or N, and that's a good thing. I think. So when did you have such a good time? So that should make it easy. What is the difference between number 1 and number 2? Angry is an adjective and time is a noun. So basically, that's what we're going to look for. You felt humiliated. Humiliated, that's an adjective, so it has to be so. You received terrible service. That's going to be a noun. And rude people, also going to be a noun. Now, why is it in this case such? Because an is a singular word, right? Such a good time. Such a good student. But if we talk about students, if we talk about people, you don't use a. So that can go, and that's why it's just such. And we're going to obviously not forget about number 4. That's similar, but in this case, such terrible service is a word which you can say is uncountable. Remember, uncountables, you have money, which you can't count, but you can count how many bills and how many coins you have. So you have a coin, but you have money. So for plural words and for uncountables, we use just such. We don't use an un. Not too difficult, I would imagine. All of that a repetition. So high time for you now to do something. You're going to write a letter of complaint, an email in this case, but you're allowed to write a letter. Imagine you have experienced one of these situations before, just one. And it says in pairs. We're going to skip that. So just by yourself, think about that. Which incident? Now, we want to know more details about the incident. What happened? How did you feel? How did you react? And also, we want to know what you want the manager to do. So we have a couple of situations, and the first one, I'll read it with you, is this. A bus driver refused to let you and 4 friends onto a bus late at night. He said he recognized you and that you had caused trouble on the bus the week before. None of you had ever been on the bus the week before. So it's not true. How will you complain? In the second situation, you have you and your friends. You were asked to leave the cinema after a member of staff accused you of throwing popcorn around. But it wasn't you, it was actually some young children who were sitting a few rows in front of you. And the third situation, you were leaving a supermarket when the security alarm went off. The security guards were very aggressive and searched all your bags and pockets. After keeping you there for half an hour, they found out it wasn't you, there was a fault with the alarm. So 3 situations, you have to pick one, the one where you think, oh, I can think of a couple of things, like I said at the beginning, give me some more details and what you want the manager to do. Then write a formal email complaining about the way you were treated, or a formal letter. Describe the incident and also mention which actions you would like to happen. Okay, is that it? Obviously not. Language focus and writing focus are here. Language, which I mentioned, we are going to look for, I want a so clause and a such. So I want both so and such, and not just the word, but the that clause too. So don't say, oh, we were so humiliated. No, I look for a sentence like, we were so humiliated that we decided to contact you and complain. So one of each, please. And then for the writing focus, well, make sure you have an introduction. Use the main paragraphs. Use at least one of these. sentences, and obviously the narrative tenses. And then for the conclusion, say what you'd like to happen, make a final statement, and also make sure you expect a reply. That's it. That's what I want for you. And that is all for the writing. So it's high time we go over to the next part. And that is a 4.8, language in focus, alternative structures to modals. We're going to start with the information here. Read the information about modality and complete a table with the base form of the structures in blue in sentence A and E. Okay, so I have to look, for me, I have to look at the bottom of my screen. For you in your book, I think you can also find them there. So we have 5 sentences. My brothers and sisters are banned from entering my room. I'm supposed to keep my bedroom tidy, but I can't be bothered. I can't find my house keys, but they're bound to turn up sooner or later. I succeeded in transferring all my photos to my new laptop recently, and my mom says I'm allowed to get a tattoo, but I don't want one. So 5 sentences. As you can see, there are some blue words. Okay, so we're going to look at these: the modal concept, probability, ability, etc. And etc. means permission, prohibition, and obligation. So what should happen at this moment? Well, you should remember when we use modals for probability, ability, etc., and also what they were. So if you forgot how to use them and which modals to use, I suggest you have a look at the PowerPoint, which you can find on Smart School, which details all of that. So if you go back to your grammar, in the grammar presentations, you find that, well, you can see obligation, permission, prohibition, speculation, and prediction are things you can use modals for. I gave you some examples, and I also told you that we have a present infinitive, infinitive continuous, and past infinitives. And these were the ones we were particularly reviewing this particular lesson, past modals. So which one must have, ought to, and should, these are used for obligation. You can find that, and all the information is in there. What you do with negative sentences, what you do with questions, permission and prohibition, you have can and may, and look there, you can also use this for be allowed to. It's not a modal. Actually, it is one of these alternatives which we're mentioning here. So in a way, you were already warned that this was coming. Again, speculation may, might, and could, and sometimes also must. So when look look that up if you want this, and then if you think, oh yeah, I remember, we are going to go back to the book, which means that I have to go back to the book as well, and I'm going to make sure that that is the correct screen. You should see it right now. So you have probability, ability, permission, prohibition, and obligation here. We have my brothers and sisters are banned from entering. Now, a couple of things are needed here. You need to know what banned means. So that is a word saying that people are not allowed in your bedroom. So in a way, that is prohibition, right? So that's forbidding people to do. So we're going to put it here where it's correct. And you can also see that be forbidden is another of these alternative structures. We call them sometimes semi-modals. Now, in this case, be banned from and be forbidden from is similar, but be forbidden to do something or forbidding from doing something. Watch out for the sentence structure there. So I told you you are forbidden to touch my screen, and you are forbidden from touching my screen. So once you start your sentence and you've just said forbidden, and then you started the next word with either a T or an F, do not worry, both mean the same thing. So that is in brief what you have to do. I am supposed to keep my bedroom tidy, so they expect you to do that. Is that obligation? Is that permission? Is that ability? Or is that probability? And the same thing is for bound to, succeeded in, and I'm allowed to. Have a short think about it, and then we will see each other after this very, very brief intermission. So, were you correct? Let's find out. Probability is unlikely or likely to do something, and be sure to do something, be certain to do something, you're bound to do something. Has to happen in a way. When you're able, you are able to do something, or in a negative version, you're unable to do it. You manage to do something, or you succeed in doing something. Again, if you have manage, you use to do. If you say succeed in, you use the in form. Permission is I allow you to do something, I permit you to do something, or you are permitted, you are allowed. So it depends on whether the sentence is active or passive. It's basically, do I give you the permission, or is the sentence just about you? So for instance, I would say, I permit you to, let's say, go to the toilet, or I can say, you are permitted to go to the toilet. It's an online lesson anyway, I don't see it. So feel free to pause at any moment. All right, we already had prohibition. Obligation is next. That is something which you have to do. In other words, which you're obliged to do, or which you're required to do, what you're meant to do, or the one we had over here, the one you are supposed to do. So basically that's this. All of these are modal structures, but we're not using modals. And in this case, we have be forms, which, like I said, sometimes can also be active sentences, depending on what is going on. So look at, for instance, yes, my mom says I'm allowed to get a tattoo. You could also say, my mom allowed me to get a tattoo. Next exercise is 3. Rewrite the sentences. Now, what do you have to do with this one? Well, we just had a look at those, and we have to rewrite them. Instead of should be, we need a structure where you're going to use meant. So what you do is you go back to the previous exercise. You're going to have a look at where you find meant, and I'm going to scroll for it. Do I see it? Do I see it? I see it here with obligation. You're supposed to do something. You're meant to do something. Be meant to do something. So Tim is late. He, and then we need a past. He was meant to be here by now. That's the way to do it. You have a minute or two to do the rest. So, did you get them? Rogers can't compete for 3 years, and we need a structure with from. So, well, he failed the drug test. That's going well. He failed the drugs test, so he is no longer allowed to do that. So, well, he's forbidden, right? So Rogers is banned from competing from for three years. Janet couldn't persuade, and then in, and if you look, you had succeed, so she didn't succeed in persuading. Should have called, supposed, again, this is a passive structure because you want him to call you, so Terry was supposed to call me. And everybody has to show, that means that I'm not standing there. Well, I'm not the UK, but I'm not standing there and say, please show me your ID card. You are sort of meant to show it when you get there. So everybody is required to show. One more exercise, and that's this one. I've got a part-time job in the local supermarket. I'm supposed to be there at 7 a.m., but I'm not sure if I'll want to get up in time. Now, supposed is the keyword here in blue. So it's one of these semi-modals, one of these alternative structures which you have to use. All right, well, should be easy. Have a look at them, read the text in silence, and then try and solve it. And then finally, you will get the answers. So I hope you did it, and let's see if you were correct. Here are the answers: manage, forbidden, allowed, obliged, meant, permitted, bound, likely, and sure. That's the end of the lesson and also of the unit. I want you to have a check if you understand everything. If not, make sure to mail me before the lesson on Monday. If you ask me a lesson up front, I will answer it. If not, I will expect you to understand it so we can continue with the next part. That's it for today, and thank you for watching the video, for doing the exercises. This is the end of Unit 4, like I said, but you don't need the word, you don't need the vocabulary anymore. You've already studied that, so that's a bit of good news. So this is the end of Unit 4, up to Unit 5, where again we have 8 lessons, some of them grammar, a bit of vocabulary. You know what to expect. Bye-bye. Okay, that's Wednesday's lesson sorted. What? Oh yeah, the big reading test, Friday, 18th of February, where you normally have skills hour at 7th hour, and that means that week no Wednesday lesson at 8:30. Thanks for reminding me. See you next time.